So you probably know, I changed my bike to GP shift. So I was looking for some adjustable rear sets just so I can have some additional adjustability and be comfortable with the bike. But as you can see, $590? Oh, that seems to be a little bit expensive. So let me go with some other website. $320? $399? Oh man, hell no, this is too much. So I put together this drawing just to give you a good representation of what exactly I'm working on. So if you are not familiar, we have your rear set, then you have your foot peg, you have your shifter sensor. This is my shifter, and then the frame. So this is the current setup that I have. So I was looking for adjustable rear sets because when you're using original or OEM rear set, you don't have the adjustability in order to be super comfortable with your bike. And in my case, after flipping the shifter in order to make a GP shift, which is not what the bike is intended to do, the actual shifter stays when it's on first a little bit like upwards, and although you're not staying on first all the time, I'm looking for this adjustability right here just so I can bring it down or maybe a little bit back or doing something in order to bring the shifter down, so, which is not an option when you have OEM shifters. So after seeing how much an adjustable rear set costs, I thought, how about if I build a plate to simulate the same setup you will get when you have an adjustable rear set, but still retaining my original rear sets, but adding a plate that gives me the adjustability in order to allow me to move the shifter maybe back or maybe down or maybe at an angle so that the shifter is in a good and the right position. So as you can see, I can actually pull it to the back, and I can actually have multiple holes in this frame, or specifically on these specific metal plate, so that I can have that adjustability. I can even actually go to a different type of like metal shifter or metal plate where I can have the adjustability in terms of like slots, which is actually allowing the shifter to go back and forth. All right, so let's establish something. Is this needed? No. I mean, is this a good project for me to spend my time and kind of hone my skills in like maybe welding or cutting, or just, you know, spending some time on my back just so I can have the satisfaction of building something myself? Of course. So just, you know, go ahead and remove your rear set, and then at this point I'm just grabbing a little bit of like cardboard just so I can mimic about the size of the area where the shifter will go in order to start mocking up some sort of like plate that will be my original guide before I start, you know, putting something together in metal, which is of course more expensive. At this point, with this in play, I can actually start looking at, okay, cool, so where am I gonna put this? So I can put it down, and I'm keeping an eye on my actual shifter to see how it behaves depending on the angle that I'm either pulling the rear set down or upwards. So I'm actually playing with that to see how feasible it is, and I started cutting. And now that I'm happy with at least the area that I have in order to pull it back, I'm actually just adding a little bit of, marking some spots so I can start giving a little bit of a shape to the cardboard. Now with the cardboard taking shape, I continue to mimic, that I have the shifter in order to continue to play and make sure that I'm not making the plate too short or maybe too long, so I'm not adding additional material. In this case, I just realized that I have, too much material in the area where it's actually intervening or interfering with the frame. So I'm actually highlighting the area that I'm going to be cutting so I can make it a little bit slimmer, and I allow the plate to go against the actual frame in a very similar fashion to the original plate. Now that I'm happy with the shape, I'm again just playing with the rear set, just up and down, just to kind of get a better feel. And I think I actually have a plate where I'm actually going to be throwing some lines, and this is just going to help me to have a little bit of a guide to understand where am I going to be drilling holes, or the type of slot that I will be adding to the plate in order to make it adjustable. I started to making a transfer to my sheet galvanized metal. Of course, this is very flimsy, and I'm just using this as a better prototype in order for me to have something that I can withstand the weight of the rear set, and even but not actually making it in a permanent way where I'm actually wasting material. So this is very cheap. This is less than $1, so I can just play with this. And even though it's going to be flimsy for now, this is going to be a very helpful in order for me to put it in action and make sure that this is actually going to work. So now with the plate in place, I'm going to start mocking up, or at least transferring some of the lines that I gather from my cardboard, and start kind of tracing a pattern. So in here, I'm trying to understand, am I gonna go back and I'm gonna go up, and where am I gonna go? Is this even feasible? So I'm just gonna start marking places to see in relation with a shifter, to see where am I gonna at least just drill 2 holes, so I can start there and see how I can continue to fine tune these metal plates. So like I said, I'm transferring the lines that I gathered before. I confirm where do I want it, and I'm just gonna start kind of making some adjustments so I can have holes or slots, so I can start, making it adjustable and get that as a template.
All right, so this is test number 1. So that I can explain what's happening, and please, this is a prototype part, so it's horrible, doesn't make any sense right now, but it will in a second. So what I'm trying to do is, instead of having a bunch of different holes, I'm planning to have a slot where I can actually have a better adjustability when it comes to, instead of just jumping from a hole that's in here that I have to leave a lot of material so it's structurally strong. I'm just gonna leave it open and see if this makes sense in terms of giving more adjustability to the rear set when it's mounted. So I'm actually playing with a bolt and this is all improvised, so I actually did not do any planning in terms of getting hardware, because I'm not even sure if this is gonna work. So I'm not gonna be spending a lot on on something that's still not not sure if it's gonna be doable. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. So it's just to start with installing this. I'm actually going to go ahead and install this like this. So I'm actually gonna reuse the bolt that it comes with the OEM rear set. Let me make sure that it's in. Okay. So you're probably now getting the idea. So now, instead of me putting this on, oops, it's getting stuck in the box. Instead of putting it in here, I can move it backwards and then have an additional adjustability that I'm looking for, you see? So instead of using this mounting point, like normally you will in your bike, what I'm proposing is to have this bolt going through here, and then you're gonna have a slot that's gonna give you an additional adjustability. Sorry, just I'm trying to deal with all at the same time. So it's just gonna give you the ability to do this right here, so you can position, essentially giving you the ability to lower the peg in relation to the shifter, and then that way you can have some sort of travel. And you know what, actually this is a great exercise, and I'm gonna explain you why. As I'm going through this exercise right here, the bolt was actually leaving a pattern that I can follow, so it was just actually scratching this area right here. So that means that this is the area that I probably want, if maybe this is the direction I want to go in terms of only giving adjustability from the one at the top, or so that I can bring the shifter this here lower, or a little bit higher, which in my case I wanted it lower, so it makes sense for me to be able to do this. But right now I don't have enough enough material in here. We'll have to start in here. This is probably my starting point when it comes to adjust it. So I think I'm just gonna have to bring this closer to this bolt and see if that actually works. And if I clear the frame on the back side, because I have a piece of framing here, so I might need to bring this closer to this bolt. Let's see if that works.
Right, now that I know that I have the range at the top, what I like, I actually traced that bottom section with the bolt on the bike. So I'm actually gonna do the same process that I did before, but I'm gonna do it at the bottom, so I can have another place or a slot where I can have a bolt running back and forth, so I can keep that adjustability between the two bolts. Now with that in the case, you can tell this prototype looks amazing. Of course, I'm just gonna put it on the bike and start testing. And although no final, this is what I wanted. I wanted something where I can move it back and forth while I'm on the bike, so I can get a feel for whether or not, like I said, is this feasible, and this is giving me the range that I need in order to make it a permanent solution.
All right, so now that you probably understand what I was trying to accomplish with this, which essentially is just to find a good position for me after doing reverse shifting with the OEM rear set, and without, and not being able to adjust it in a way where the actual shifter, it feels comfortable. And think about this. So now the shifter is just gonna come up, and then if you don't play with this position right here, then you might end up being in a somewhat of an uncomfortable position. It was not unbearable, but I was used to the way I can, leave my, position my foot when I'm riding, and I felt kind of awkward when the bike was in first. It felt kind of like my foot was doing like this number right here instead of being kind of like even like level with the surface, or maybe the road, or maybe just a little bit more inclined. So I want to test a couple things. One, first of all, that I'm comfortable with the position, and secondly, I also want to test the fact that I can, reach to all the shifts. This is flimsy because I'm only using this super skinny and flimsy galvanized sheet. But I think I like the position. You can go crazy, and of course, this might be different for someone else, but I can also make it so that I have a bunch of holes, or I have like multiple like slots like this, so I can play with, bringing it up or down depending on your height. So if this works, I'm actually gonna be, purchasing a thicker sheet of metal, and then we're just gonna be pretty much transferring all the time and the findings that I had by, cutting and doing all the parts. So yeah, let's just take a look. Of course, I'm gonna take it easy, like I said before, because this is flimsy, and I just need that, more structural plate to be able to get the final, rendering. Most important thing is that you can see my position. Before, I still had my foot all the way like doing this number, and you can see on my leg probably that I'm actually having a lot of pressure right now. The bike is in first. And you can tell that I'm actually pointing down, which is very comfortable if I have to, be on first for, a certain amount of time. So I'm just gonna run through the shift and see how it feels. It might get stuck because of the same, thing that I was talking about, maybe not having the right leverage in order to operate the shifter. Perfect. If you see, this is where I'm on 6, which is very comfortable. And then if I bring it up the way up to first, so now even with first in here, you can tell that my foot is actually in a good angle when I'm not adding a lot of like strength to my legs. So that's actually pretty nice. I really like it. So I think it's time for me to start working on transferring this to a plate, so I can have the final position. If you're thinking about, hey Richard, why are you going through all that hassle if you can actually continue playing with this? So let me tell you something. There's a point where there's only so many ways that you can actually get the splines in, and sometimes it goes in a certain way. It's not like you can go like every couple millimeters to kind of continue to play, and very small movements or adjustments on the splines in here on this input shaft or whatever you call it, it's actually translate to some corrections that are very drastic on this side. So moving this maybe a centimeter, maybe on an inch this way might bring the shifter like 3 inches up. So you don't get that adjustability. So that's why I needed to do something like this. You don't have to. I was somewhat happy with what I had before, but this is now putting it in a perfect place for me.
All right, so this is where I'm stopping, and next week I'm gonna show you the final, or hopefully it's part 2, and the final product based on these adjustable rear sets that you can do at home for like super cheap. You just need time and maybe a little bit of skills, or at least just trying. So if you're new to the channel, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you find stuff in my channel that's either entertaining or educational, or maybe something you can learn from. So please leave a comment, consider subscribing, and I hope you find my channel useful or entertaining, like I said. Thank you again.